and still to this day, helping people is why I wake up and come into work every day at Falcon Wealth Advisors. That is the most satisfying thing that I can do is help someone.
Welcome to Upticks with Jake Falcon, founder and CEO of Falcon Wealth Advisors. In this podcast, we help high net worth individuals overcome financial complexities. We do this by enhancing financial literacy and discussing topics in a language free from industry jargon. Join us as we help explain exactly what having a solid financial plan means, as Jake draws from years of experience in helping hundreds of individuals get financially organized and focused on their goals. We hope you find Upticks educational, entertaining, and shareable. Now, on to the show.
Welcome back to Upticks with Jake and Cory. Cory, welcome back to the show.
Oh, Jake, thanks for having me.
What's new?
What is new? That's a good question. Enjoying the cooler weather, Jake. And we celebrated my wife's birthday last weekend. We actually went to the Majestic Steakhouse downtown and never had dinner there before. So that was great. And just rock and rolling here back in the office.
Hold on before you do your monologue. So what, I've never been to the Majestic. Did you smoke a cigar in there? Could you smoke in that place?
I think upstairs, and I think they call it the Pendergast Club. I know that there's private events where I think some people do, but where we went, no cigar smoke in the restaurant.
How was the steak?
It was good. It was really good.
Was it as good as Capitol Grill?
I think so. It was different. Yeah, it was different, but it was good. Absolutely. The setting was great though, because that building's over 100 years old, and downstairs they have live jazz music. And I think that was a speakeasy back during Prohibition. So it's a real neat, setting and kind of setup and vibe they've got going on there. So we enjoyed it.
Kansas City Institution.
That's right.
Speaking of food and drink, you honked at me or waved at me on your way to Starbucks this morning. What do you get at Starbucks?
I mix it up.
Sometimes
I get cold brew. Sometimes I'll get a latte. Sometimes I'll get something different.
What'd you have today?
A cold brew.
All right. How was that?
It was good.
I'm not much of a coffee guy. So anyway.
I am. And the caffeine intake admittedly is definitely increased since the baby was born. So there's some days where there's just more than others.
Clients got to know though, Cory, that you're rolling in front of my house at 7:15 in the morning on your way to Starbucks, and you come in, Falcon Wealth Advisors, alert, ready to go.
I'm waving at Jake when I drive by. I saw Jake in the driveway. So,
meeting with clients, recording upticks, researching stocks and bonds, researching planning. That's what we do here. Good. So what's with me, Cory? As I've been on some podcasts lately promoting my book, which has been a lot of fun. So again, for our listeners, if you haven't picked up your copy yet, I'd highly encourage you to go out to Amazon. It's a #1 bestseller called Retiring Right: Smart Steps for Exiting Corporate America. It's 150 pages, Cory. It's a guide about retirement planning. It's not the end-all be guide, but it is designed to allow our readers to just think about some things that maybe they haven't thought of yet, or maybe they have thought a lot about some things and they can feel a little bit more confident as they approach retirement. I know you're reading the book. What do you think so far?
I think it's great. I think I've read that book, Jake. I need to get it updated in our weekly email.
Oh, good. You finished.
I did want to tell you, though, that along those same lines and what you're talking about as far as that guide goes, is that next week, myself and Jordan and Tyler, who are both financial planners here on the team that work with my clients and I, we were asked to speak at a Johnson County Professionals in Aging, basically networking event with around 40 or 50 people. And it's a lot of folks that actually work with people later in life. So really what we're going to speak about, Jake, is a lot of what you wrote about and is sort of outlined in the book as far as a guide goes, of really just, kind of thinking about planning for the second half of life, everything financially and emotionally, and understanding that having a purpose while you're working and when you're retired is crucial. And, really ways to set yourself up for the golden years to be the best that they can be in whatever way that you want them to. So I'm excited, Jake. Really, we're going to be using the book that you wrote. Ultimately, I'm going to be using that as kind of the curriculum is not the right word to use. Presentation, the conversation that we'll have with these folks next week.
Fantastic. Well, make sure you bring some copies.
I will.
And make sure that you know how to get it. So good. Well, thank you. That's been a lot. Thank you for talking about it. That's been a lot of fun getting it out there. I've been getting some great feedback from our clients about it. And again, the whole point is enhancing financial literacy. And a special thanks to our audience. Our subscriber count continues to grow. Cory, I think our last YouTube episode cracked over 1,000, well over 1,000 views. So thank you for everyone that's tuning in. Please give us a thumbs up and a 5-star review. And also, please continue to send your questions into Luke. Today, Cory, we've got 3 questions/comments that our audience would like us to address. So we'll get into that. And again, if you have something, please email Luke at falconwealthadvisors.com. And Cory and I are happy to talk about it live here on Upticks. So Cory, we'll kick us off here. The question from the listener was, "Hi, Cory. Now my head is spinning after I read this article. Maybe that is a subject for your show with Jake." And the article is talking about the tax torpedo in retirement. Cory, perhaps you can elaborate on this subject.
Yes, I will. So the article itself, Jake, was called "The Complicated Way Social Security is Taxed Can Catch People by Surprise." Interestingly, this same subject matter has come up quite a bit more recently. But I want to talk about this to, just take some of the mystery out of it, because if you went through and read the article, it will make your head spin if you're trying to figure out what it is that you're reading. But the point here is the tax torpedo. If anyone has heard that referenced, it's really the tax torpedo in retirement is about how much of your Social Security benefits that you will pay tax on. The kicker, though, is this is really complex because of the tax code, because you don't know your adjusted gross income until you know how much of your Social Security benefits will be taxed, but you don't know how much of your benefit will be taxed until you know your adjustable gross income. So it's a little, quite literally loopy is what the article talks about in terms of how that's set up. But the point here is that if your share of your Social Security benefit that is taxable is greater than 0%, but less than 85%, that middle range is really who this is most applicable for, because an additional dollar of income can trigger ordinary income taxes on your Social Security. So that's ultimately what this is all about. But what I want to state here, Jake, that I think for clients at Falcon Wealth Advisors, and frankly, a lot of people in planning for retirement, a lot of people are already in this situation where their Social Security benefits are going to be taxed at 85, where they're going to pay tax on 85% of their benefits if they have any other income. And when that's the situation, that is less applicable to this tax torpedo that is highlighted that, a lot of people have concerns about, because the reality is if people have other benefits, if they have other income, if they have other pensions or IRA distributions, they're likely going to be in a situation where they're already paying taxes on the Social Security anyhow.
Right. And the key, I think, that our clients can go through is our tax planning process every year.
Yep.
Because and again, it's not the worst thing if your Social Security is taxed, by the way. That means you have high income. And high income is not necessarily a bad thing, because you're probably spending it and you're living your life. But again, the key is to just go through our tax planning process. If there's some things that we can do to mitigate your taxation on your Social Security, we'll talk about it, right? And sometimes, though, like you said, there's just nothing you can do about it because you have other income sources. But don't be alarmed if your Social Security is getting taxed. If it concerns you or bothers you, meet with Falcon Wealth Advisors. We do tax planning. This is not tax advice, but we do tax planning where we can forecast things that you're doing that are impacting the taxation of your Social Security. Good. And thank you for the listener. I think it's a very confusing subject. And again, something that we can smooth out just by meeting with us and going over it with them.
Absolutely. Yes. And one other real quick point to make from this, Jake, in the article is the author talked about how really the time or act or strategize around this is before the Social Security benefits begin.
Right.
So again, that's another piece to be mindful of here.
Yes.
All right, looks like we have next, Jake, another question from a listener where someone said, Hi, Luke, just wanted to submit a question for Jake and Cory. What's their favorite part about their job and the most rewarding experience as wealth advisors? It might have been asked before, but would be a fun topic to talk about. Thank you.
Yes. And thank you for the question. So the most fun part, and I want to hear your response to this, Cory. So what's pretty fascinating, so this is my 18th year practicing as a wealth advisor. And my job over those 18 years has actually changed quite a bit. Just like most of our clients' jobs in their first 18 years of their careers, they didn't keep doing the same thing that they were originally hired to do. And so, originally, Cory, you and I, neither of us had any clients. So our job was to find clients. And we worked on a team together, and we had resources that helped service those clients, advise those clients, invest money for those clients, and so forth. Today, our jobs have evolved where we now have a team of professionals that we're overseeing to do a lot of the things that you and I did on our own. And I would think still, and this is why I still have energy to do what I do, is still to this day, helping people is why I wake up and come into work every day. That is the most satisfying thing that I can do is help someone, whether small or large. Is it helping them realize when and if and how they can retire? Is it helping them save $1,000 on their taxes? Is it helping their kid or their parents? Helping people, number one thing that I love about my job. I also love the fact that what we do is dynamic. I could never work on an assembly line. I could never do it. I feel bad for the checkers at the grocery store. Corey, I was at Whole Foods the other day, and this poor lady, she's older, checking groceries. And, Rachel and I, we buy groceries for the week, and I didn't think we had a lot on there, but I kind of piled it on because the conveyor belt was kind of logged up, right? And the poor lady looked at it and just went, oh, like, that's a lot. And I'm like, that's a lot. And she's like, well, I don't normally work on Sundays. That's our busy day. But I felt her pain because I wouldn't like to do that either. And so what I'm lucky about is that our jobs have changed, and they do change. So the stock market changes every day. Financial planning and tax laws change all the time. And so that is dynamic. And then again, a part of change is I love meeting new people. So I love probably the most enjoyable part, other than helping people just generally, would be, I would have to say, meeting new people and establishing their financial plan. The base level is what I like doing. And then I love transitioning that to our financial planners, who then will go very, very deep with clients. I'm not much into the weeds kind of guy. I like meeting new people, laying the foundation, and letting my team members really start adding massive value to their lives. That's what I like doing. So it's kind of a different response. What about you? Is it the same, or you have something different?
It's similar, but I think a bit different, Jake. And really, just to address those same two questions, a lot of what you just described is the same reason that I love what I do. And we started working together, Jake, when I was 20 years old, right? I've told clients, this is all I've done. This is all I'm going to do. There's no plan B. This is it, right? This is what I know, and it's what I love doing. And definitely my favorite part about it is spending time with people, both in person, if it's virtually, if it's people on our team, whomever it might be, Jake. I'm the same way in that I like spending time ultimately with people, and I like the dynamic nature of it because I am still doing the same thing, Jake. It's evolved, but we've been working together since I was 20 years old, right? Since I was in college. And it has continued, of course, to change, but there's not having any plan B, right? In a lot of ways, really having and knowing and seeing what it is that I want to do and knowing what I want to do and how ultimately we can help people. Because the reality is our clients that have hired us have done this because they don't either have the time, the energy, or the desire to do all of it for themselves. And I think the most rewarding part in all of that, for me at least, is really seeing people who have been planning for retirement, taking the right steps, establishing the plan, working with our financial planners on tax planning, doing all of that from a financial standpoint in preparation for retirement, and then actually seeing those people go and do the things that they always wanted to do, whether it was buying another home, buying an RV, traveling around the world, paying for their grandkids' education, whatever it might be is important to people. I think it's really neat that the service that we can provide is ultimately what can close the gap between where people are at and what it is that they want to do. And we have a team of friendly professionals here that work hard to make sure that we're doing the best job for our clients that we can. So I think my favorite part of all of that, Jake, is really just the dynamic nature of it. Rarely are 2 days the same. Spending time with people and spending time with new people that we haven't met before, establishing those plans, and then really helping them to actually achieve what they've always wanted to do. Because I think that's really rewarding, because a lot of folks feel like, I don't know how I would, they just understanding what you want to do and then figuring out how to get there are two very different things. And we provide the service to help people get there.
Thank you, Cory. That was quite the monologue there. And I could tell you were fired up because your camera was shaking all over the place.
I'm banging on my desk. Yeah, maybe get my hands off of it.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing. And thank you to the listener for the question. So hopefully you can tell our passion coming through there. All right, Cory, another question or comment from the listener. Medicare changes coming in 2025. What do you got for us, Cory?
There was a client in the office a few weeks ago, Jake, who brought me a couple of documents from different healthcare brokers that they received this summer about Medicare. And we actually talked about this last week on the show. Somebody asked a question around the Inflation Reduction Act and the changes to Medicare. The big point here and the takeaway from this communication is that there's nothing really that's set in stone, but the client that shared this with me, Jake, basically the table was getting set for them to expect that they will have higher premiums and fewer plan choices when they're evaluating Medicare next year. And a lot of that will be a byproduct of what's changed with legislation in the last few years. I think for anybody who's watching or listening to this, whether you're already on Medicare or will be getting onto Medicare soon, recognize and take advantage of the open enrollment period at the end of the year, because it sounds like options for next year are going to look more different than they have the last couple.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. And again, we have connections and resources. So
Yes.
Medicare is absolutely something that you do not have to go at alone. There are health insurance agents out there that can assist you with this enrollment. So again, please email me or Cory or Luke at falconwealthadvisors.com. So it's Jake at Falcon Wealth Advisors, Cory or Luke. And we are happy to connect you with a health insurance or Social Security or Medicare agent. They don't work for Medicare, but you know I'm getting at. They're health insurance agents.
Yep.
They can help assist you with enrollment, because it is complicated. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all these different plans might be more expensive. You might be overpaying based on what you actually need. So that's why you need to review it and meet with somebody and talk about it.
Exactly.
So that's the key. Have the conversation. The enrollment starts in October, I believe, doesn't it, Cory?
Yes. Yeah, and I think October 15th is when the actual open enrollment begins. And I think October 1st is when all of the changes are rolled out.
Right. So again, don't sleep on it. Don't wait till the end of the year. Get an appointment scheduled with somebody in October, November, or sooner, so you can go over your options, you know what's going on, and you can plan accordingly. And again, if you don't have a contact, let us know, and we can certainly connect you with somebody that can help you.
And December 7th, Jake, is when that enrollment period ends. It's not December 31st. So October 15th to December 7th.
So yeah, definitely not the end of the year. Good.
Yep.
All right, good. Cool. Take us away here.
All right, Jake, how to boost your Social Security check by 24%.
Yeah, speaking of Medicare, Social Security, these things, this is a pretty unique strategy, Cory. And again, this show is not advice. I want to be clear. But basically, if somebody turns on Social Security early, like at 62, 63 or whatever, when they reach their full retirement age, which is normally around 66 or 67 based on when you were born, you can actually stop receiving payments, suspend your payments, and then turn it back on after 3 years when you're 70, which is how this article got to 24%. So this is a very unique strategy, but it is one that's out there that I think a lot of people don't know about. So again, let's say you retire, you turn on your Social Security, and maybe you realize you're not spending as much money that you budgeted for, or maybe you decide to go back to work and you really don't need your Social Security. Well, this will be an opportunity for you to suspend your Social Security payments, let those payments grow at 8% a year. It's not compounded, but they will increase 8% a year, and then turn those payments back on when you're 70. So a neat little trick. It's legal. Social Security is okay with it. But I thought this article was a little bit of clickbait. And I started reading about it because, again, 24% is a lot. But again, it really applies to people who are turned on their Social Security early, who have reached full retirement age and no longer need that income, which is very rare, right? Most people.
That's not a huge group of people.
Yeah, when you ask people, they're going to say, well, no, I don't absolutely maybe need my $2,000 or $3,000 a month I'm getting for Social Security, but if I don't get it from there, I'm going to have to pull it from my investments. So in that circumstance, it might not make sense to do this. It's really if you have other income sources, or maybe you had a windfall, something changed in your plan, and now you no longer need it. So again, I thought it was a good article, just something to think about. Again, if you want us to crunch the numbers on your Social Security, let us know. Those are things that our financial planners are happy to do for you. We're dealing with a big unknown in the future, but at least we can crunch the numbers on your situation today and let you know what makes sense based on your financial plan. All right, Cory, moving on here. Unless you have anything else. Anything else on that one?
Nope, we can move on.
Okay, moving on. So much about real estate commissions just changed. Here's what's to know.
Yes, for the last several decades, the seller of a home has typically paid a real estate agent on both sides of the transaction. Oftentimes, it's been 6% of the sale price. Seller's agent splits it with the buyers. When a home is listed for sale, though, in light of all of these changes, Jake, that just went into effect this month, August of 2024, really what's changed is that when a house is listed for sale, historically, the listing has said how much the buyer's agent, Jake, can expect to get paid. And what's really changed is that listings now will no longer show if the seller is offering to pay a buyer's agent or how much. And two, buyers, this is what's interesting to me, Buyers will be required to sign agreements specifying how much their agent will be paid. And they need to do this before they tour homes with the said agent. And agents are not required for buyers or sellers. So in all of this, Jake, what do you take away from this? If you were going to go tour a new house, I know you and Rachel moved this year, but let's pretend that you and Rachel are moving January of 2025. How would you feel about striking a buyer's agreement with an agent about how much they're going to get paid before you go into a house?
I like it, actually. I think they made it more confusing than it needs to be, though, about what's
it definitely doesn't seem simpler.
Yeah, I think if you boil it down, Cory, what it really is saying is that when you hire an agent to sell your house, you're going to have to pay them a fee, and when you hire an agent to buy a house, you're going to have to pay them a fee.
Yep.
And before, the seller was paying both fees. I mean, that's what you're saying in English.
Yep.
And so I think you need to go into it now. And if you're selling your house, you need to make sure that you're only paying 2 or 3% to the selling agent. And when you're going to buying a house, you get to realize you might have to pay 2 or 3%. So I think it's turned into more of a used car relationship with your agent. And so, which, to be fair, it's kind of what it is. And so I just think people need to be vigilant, and they need to understand, what is that agent exactly going to do? Because here's my problem with it. Selling a house, if you don't have a buddy or a friend or a family member that's going to buy it, I could see the value in hiring someone to help you sell your house, because they might have a network, they've got a bigger social media following, whatever. But in today's day and age, buying a house, I don't know how, now again, this is not advice, but I don't know how necessary an agent is to buy a house anymore. Because all those selling agents are trying to get these houses in front of you. So my point is, you don't really have to look hard and fast to find a house to buy. It's all online. So I have a hard time paying an agent to help me buy a house 2 or 3%. I understand them marketing it and selling it. And I would tell the agent that's selling my house, look, this is the bottom line number I want to get, whatever it is. I want to get $500,000 for my house. You charge me whatever you want. As long as I have a $500,000 in my bank account, cool, right? And then you could say the same thing to a buyer's agent. Look, I have $500,000 to buy a house. That's it. I don't have any more money. So you go get me a house for $500,000, exactly what I want. I don't care what you charge me. This is what I want. But again, you're going to have to haggle. You're going to have to be informed, and you have to get really clear on what are they doing for you. If you're finding the house yourself, why are you paying? I don't know. If they're going to help you negotiate, maybe. But this is my other issue, real quick. I know I'm getting a little soapbox here, Cory. Thanks for letting me have my own monologue today. But
onward.
This is my problem. They are both sides of this are incentivized for you to pay more. I don't like that. I don't like that about it.
And isn't that why this change went into effect in the first place?
No. The change went into effect because the selling individual should not have to pay the buyer's commission. That's why the change went into effect.
Right. But there was a lot of conversation about how there was collusion basically to keep home prices inflated for that reason. And I don't know how this solves that.
Well, I'll tell you, it can solve it, because look, if you and Cassie go buy a house, you could tell your buyer's agent, I'm going to pay you $5,000. I don't care what the house is worth.
Mm-hmm.
You can negotiate that. So it doesn't need to be a percentage. You could say,
that's true. Yeah.
You could say, look, or you could say, you know what? I'm going to pay you $100 for every house you show me. You can do that now.
Yeah, I guess if I want to incentivize somebody to show me as many houses as possible.
Right.
Right?
Yes, exactly. Or you could say, you know what? You could also work the agreement. Look, if you get me a house, if you knock off $50,000 off the price of a house, I'll pay you $20,000 of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's going to be fascinating to me? How good at negotiating are these agents? Because in my opinion, Cory, they haven't had to negotiate a lot. And now they're going to have to play. I think there'll be more specialization too. I think some agents say,
so.
you know what? I just want to be a buyer's agent and I'm going to really hustle and I'm going to be really good at negotiating for my clients. Then I would probably want to go hire that person.
Right.
If somebody had a reputation for being a very good negotiator.
Yeah, the buyer's agent could actually add more value as a consequence of all of this.
Yes. So it's a change that needed to happen. I think it's very, very confusing. I wish it were simpler, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. Our industry's gotten changed a ton, so I don't feel sorry for them.
Right.
A lot of agents want them to feel sorry for them. I don't feel sorry for them. They've been making tons of percentage off these houses for years, and home prices keep going up. I don't feel bad for them. I just think I'm glad you shared this, and I think it's a subject we need to talk more about. And again, neither of us are real estate agents.
Right.
We have no skin in the game here. This is not advice, but we do financial planning. We are wealth advisors, and homes, other than our clients' retirement nest eggs, are a big part of their net worth. And I think it's something that people need to understand and be vigilant on. So good.
Absolutely.
Good, Cory. I love it. We got time for maybe one more, right? Let's do one more.
All right, Jake. ETFs are winning over fans of mutual funds. Why they're so popular? What's here? What do you got?
You want to hear?
Yeah, let's hear it. Why they're so popular?
They're so popular, Cory, because advisors are pushing people into ETFs. That's why they're popular.
Yep.
Let me explain the difference. You can chime in here too. So a mutual fund traditionally is an actively managed product, right? A client will put money in, buy shares of a fund, and they will have a human manager or team of managers buying and selling individual stocks and bonds in this fund. And the price of your portfolio is determined on the price of the fund. Now, an ETF, as it was created, was meant to be passive, meaning you don't have anybody driving the ship. You're just going to own all the tech stocks or all the S&P 500 or all the NASDAQ or all the Dow, whatever. Passive. Now, actually, these ETFs, to make it nice and confusing, are also starting to be managed now by some people. ETFs traditionally are lower cost, but there's nobody managing it. Mutual funds are higher cost because you're paying for a manager. I have problems with both of these. And here's my problem with both of them. Is that when you fork over your money into one of these products, you are no longer an individual to these companies. You are one of hundreds, if not thousands, of other investors, and your portfolio has no customization to it. You are lumped in with everybody else, whether they're 20 years old or 90 years old or whatever, and you're susceptible to those people's contributions or distributions affecting the buying and selling of certain securities in these products. So again, we hate products at Falcon Wealth Advisors, and that's a strong word, Cory, because we don't like our clients paying another layer of fees. We don't like giving up control of the portfolio, and we don't like the lack of transparency. And so I'll tell you why ETFs are popular, because advisors are pushing them, and ETFs have big wallets, and they're promoting them and advertising them. So again, I don't think anybody that's working with, this is my opinion, I don't think anybody that's working with a wealth advisor should be using products unless that's their only option. And typically it's only your option if it's in your 401k. But if it's not in your 401k and your advisor is putting you in products and you're paying that advisor a fee, I don't agree with that. I have a big problem with it. What are your thoughts? I've been soapboxy to this morning. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's all right, Jake. I think I'm the one typically with the monologues and the soapbox here.
I called you out early. I stopped that monologue early about Starbucks or whatever.
Here's a little bit of karma. My question is this: actually, hearing you talk that through, Jake, the idea of an advisor selling products to someone for their life savings just doesn't make any sense to me. The money that you've accumulated your whole life, it's like, okay, let's go and find whatever the best new product is. Why? What's the point in doing that? It doesn't matter if it's universal indexed insurance. It doesn't matter if it's annuities or ETFs. We talked on the show last week about how there are now ETFs, Jake, that people can buy, that the value of the fund itself is tied to one underlying stock, and it can trade for 2 or 3 times leverage, meaning if that stock goes up 10%, the fund could go up 30% or vice versa. Why do people need to buy products that can use leverage to amplify returns in their retirement accounts? for the money that they've worked their whole life to save? Is that really, just like we talked about last week, Jake, you said you might have more fun at the casino, right? Going and gambling. So when we're talking about ETFs, mutual funds, annuities, whatever it is, leverage products, it doesn't matter. We're talking about ultimately products that have been created by an industry for advisors to sell to you, not because that's absolutely the best thing for you and the best fit for you and your family and your financial plan. And I think, Jake, that's exactly why we take the approach that we do. Because we know our clients, we know their financial plans, and we know the money should be invested in accordingly to make that happen.
Right. It's a joke. And I think that it's all about, and I get it, companies want to make money, but when you're talking about the seriousness of somebody's retirement,
yes,
that's why we have an issue with it, because you and I are retirement planning counselors. We have taken our careers very seriously. We take our jobs seriously. This kind of goes full circle in the beginning of our show. We love helping people. Me slapping a client into a product that they can go buy themselves and charging them a fee on that is not helping them. It's not helping anybody but me if I did that. And I think the issue is, Cory, there's hundreds of thousands of advisors in America, and there's a low barrier of entry to our industry, and these people aren't qualified or trained. So what they are is they're product pushers. And that's what's happening. And I think that if you want to do financial planning for someone, you should do financial planning, but you should leave the investments to the professionals and not use products. Like, don't charge a fee to do something that you're not doing, is where I'm going with that. Like, I think it's fine. If somebody wants to do planning work and charge an hourly rate like an attorney, I don't like that. But that to me, those advisors are much more reputable than an advisor charging 2% to put somebody in an ETF or a mutual fund. That's garbage to me. And it's wrong, and they're not helping people. And so again, I just hope our audience understands that, again, if you want to be an investment product, you don't necessarily need to pay an advisor a percentage of that investment to do that. Those times.
But also ask yourself that question though, Jacob, do you need an investment product?
Right.
Or has an advisor or the industry told you that you need a product?
Right. Yes, I agree. We feel like we
might not.
Yeah, we feel like we can achieve a level of diversification just going direct and buying individual stocks and bonds and trading options for approved clients. And again, very good, Cory. And that's a good landing place here for today's episode. So again,
one other quick point I just want to make here, Jake, for anybody watching and listening, and I think because you and I have done this long enough, there have been too many instances where we will bring on a new client to work with us. And part of what we're helping them do is unwind some product that someone sold them 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, 30 years ago even.
Yes.
That's happened too many times. There's been far more instances of that versus someone pointing to a product they bought a decade ago and said, this was the best financial decision I made.
Right.
We've just seen it too much. And I've 14, 15 years, almost, 18 years you're doing that. We've seen it too often. And that's why we're so passionate about it and why we talk about it on the show. Why we do things the way we do.
I agree. It's good. Good. Well, thank you, Cory. I know we went over time a little bit. Thank you so much for joining me. And thank you all for tuning into Upticks. Please like and share our content, and we hope you have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Upticks. Click the subscribe button to be notified when new episodes become available. Also, be sure to visit our website, falconwealthadvisors.com, and click the Contact Us button if you'd like to meet with Jake and his team.